So with the new consoles being rained down upon us like a plague of frogs, I figure it would be time to talk maybe more about graphics. I mean, specifically what it's done for gaming. In some ways it's really helped out, and in some ways it's probably really hurt. On the one hand, it's allowed characters to be designed with more expression, they've got better facial features. But on the other hand, it's really caused the cost of making these games to totally escalate. Those increased demands are forcing developers to really shrink the scope and scale of their games, and as a result you may be getting a prettier product, but there's a whole lot less going on with it. Of course, it's really encouraged sequels, because rehashing old graphics is way easier than developing a new game. And ultimately, sometimes you gotta ask yourself, what do these shiny new graphics really contribute to the experience? I mean, you take a racing game and what? I mean, it doesn't help the mechanics if they look better. I suppose it's been used to create a lot more softcore porn, although that's been complained on by YouTube's Darth Sarkeesian. You know, that Sith Lord who used forced persuasion to get everyone to give her $150,000 so she could talk about how Princess Peach isn't a good representative for women. Even though that's been a joke and a dead horse for over a decade now. But I mean, whatever, whether or not you want to make it a big deal that women are depicted as being like overly voluptuous in video games, it's not that much of a contributor or a benefit. After all, they've done these studies with chimps where they offer male chimps pretty pictures of girl chimps, but then they give the boy chimps a choice. They can have the picture or they can have a juice box. Turns out that a lot of times they tend to go for the juice box. I mean, come on, it's a juice box. It's juice, but in a box. You can take it and drink it wherever you want. Point being that just because you can put Samus in a butt-hugging suit with jiggle physics doesn't mean that you're excused from creating a plotline with substance. I mean, come on, a brand new game is like $60, right? There better be more to it than that. But that's not the only insubstantial thing they're trying to exploit these days. I know they're also always trying to use brand recognition and other stuff. And while there have been a few mainstream developers who kind of looked at the new generation of gaming and said, hey, look at how much stuff we could store on this disc if we didn't waste all our time on graphics. I think the real potential currently lies with independent companies. And while it is a great time for indie devs to really break out there, it's also an extremely terrifying time for them because the big developers realize this. These days, one thing that can happen is a big developer might contract with the small developer, but then the big developer will botch the contract. This causes the little company to go bankrupt, and then the big company swoops in and buys up all their intellectual property and all their people for cheap. Sometimes this works and sometimes it doesn't, but what it really goes to show is that big developers are starting to get down and dirty and they're taking their gloves off. It's part of why Nintendo is claiming YouTube videos these days, because none of them know where the future is and they're all just trying to acquire as much stuff as possible. I mean, EA bought PopCap.com and a bunch of other social gaming sites. Activision seems to want to be a big esports thing through Blizzard, but they don't seem aware of how to do it. And truth be told, I feel like the new age of digital distribution just doesn't favor gigantic companies anymore. It seems a bit wasteful to have so much infrastructure built around a system where you can just upload your game to the internet and then distribute it around to everyone. That's why even though some of these big game companies are trying to get into phone games, they're really not doing that well in that arena. They've been able to buy existing IP that's already successful, but they're not really creating new stuff. Or at least not new stuff that's getting a major foothold in the market. And again, that's kind of the problem. Their gigantic size isn't really an advantage because they're competing in a saturated market full of normal people. But of course, that's not saying that that'll be the case forever. Things could wind up a lot of different ways. It could go really well for a lot of people, or it could turn into a monopoly for a select few. Although I will say the app and gaming market is certainly a lot different than YouTube, which has allowed a certain amount of fraud and monopolizing to occur. Unlike YouTube, the infrastructure for the app and gaming markets is a great deal less threatened by IP lawsuits, so there's not nearly as much incentive to draft up civil contracts that circumvent the normal laws. So the prognosis isn't bad, and I've gotta say, from what I've seen of independent developers these days, there's probably a lot of potential, but a lot of things get screwed up. I chalk it up to little more than inexperience in the growth of a developing market. I think of it like watching all those old cartoons on Newgrounds. You remember how choppy all that animation used to be? Well, having been given a few years and a bunch of widespread use, that software has gotten a lot more efficient. I think the same is liable to happen in the gaming markets if we keep going and more people start producing and getting into it. But one way or the other, whatever happens, we're definitely due for some changes in the gaming world. As for myself, I'm skipping this generation of consoles. Heck, I skipped the last generation of consoles. I need more substance than this. Give me that or give me a juice box. Anyway, let's get back to our game.
Man, seems like you've been focused on business, politics, and the future a lot lately.
Yeah, well, I think it might be because I'm hungry all the time.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, see, actually I went to the doctor just recently, like the other day, for a routine checkup thing. They noticed that I'd lost like 10% of my body weight.
Oh shoot, dude.
Yeah, they were a little bit concerned.
Sure, makes sense.
And they thought that maybe I had like some kind of parasite, and I had to explain to them that really just there's no food in my fridge most of the time.
I know, I noticed that. I come over these days and there's like nothing to eat.
See, I thought maybe you had noticed, because you do come over every single day, and you eat whatever's in there.
Yeah, I'm getting really sick of peanut butter and jelly.
Me too. And, but I just had to explain, you know, I don't really have like an internal parasite.
So what are you trying to say exactly?
I'm trying to say that the doctor thought that you were tapeworms.
Me? Okay, now look. You know, this whole food shortage thing, it's hurting me too. Like, I think that I've been losing weight as well.
It would be a case of mutual destruction.
We're in this together, have a little
But
solidarity.
I know that we're in it together. We can't be mutually destroyed if only one of us is getting destroyed.
Oh, hey, look, there's something going on.
Yes, it would seem that Rarity and Sweetie Belle are drafted up into a monster chase.
Oh yeah, this is the part of the game where you find out that Rarity has been talking all her life about hunting down some kind of mystical creature, like a space bear or something, and now's your chance to actually go and find a real space bear.
It is just like one of the characters in the TV show.
Yes, 3 guesses which one.
Is it Rarity?
Oh, let's see, the character who doesn't want to go outside because it might be dirty.
Yes.
No, it isn't Rarity.
Then it is Captain Jean-Luc Picard.
No, I don't think he's in the My Little Pony universe.
Then it can only be Gilda.
No, we've already established that Gilda has the person skills to run an empire. Of course, it couldn't be Discord either, because he's an unrepentant, bloodthirsty murderer.
Okay, I think we've established that the characterization in this game isn't top-notch.
Yeah, but it would be top-notch?
What's that?
Do you think that maybe, you could order a pizza for dinner tonight?
You know I don't have money for that.
I know you don't, but when you do have money for it, that would be great.
Well, I'll see. It's gonna be a little bit.
How long do you think?
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I did order a pizza.
Really? I don't remember that.
Well, I ordered it about a month ago.
Okay. Was I there for that, or?
Well, I never got the pizza was the thing.
How do you mean you ordered a pizza but you didn't get the pizza?
Well, I went through all the trouble to put in an order for a pizza, and, I couldn't get delivery because it was not worth the cash, and so I had to go pick it up, but I didn't have a ride, so I couldn't go pick it up.
I would have given you a ride.
I didn't want to impose.
Okay, but there's no partial credit for pizza, though. I mean, you either have a pizza or you don't. Your score is a 0.
That's pretty harsh. I put in some effort.
But I have to give you a 0 because you put in the effort, if you don't have the pizza in the end, then you didn't get anything for the effort.
Well, the pizza might still be waiting there for me.
You should call in. You should call for another pizza.
But that one might still be waiting.
It's been a month. I think they throw it away.
But if I put in another order for a pizza and they're still hanging on to the old one.
They're not hanging on to the old one. They get tons of orders.
I don't think you realize just how hard it is for me to order a pizza.
I'm acquainted with some of the logistics.
No, you don't realize. I've had a very difficult childhood. See, when I was a kid...
No. Okay, I believe you. I believe every Freudian excuse that you have to not get that pizza.
Well, the other thing is that my favorite pizza place is starting to close down.
No, really, like I said, I believe everything. Just, it's not an object as to...
If you would just listen, when I was a kid...
I try to be sympathetic, Look, I understand that there are hurdles. I'm just telling you that my doctor, was interested.
Pizza killed my grandmother.
Okay, we could do McDonald's.
Wow. I just totally opened up to you and I dropped a bomb on you, and you are still talking about this food thing.
I am afraid your grandmother's death did not provide me with nourishment.
Not yet.
What do you mean, not yet?
I mean, first you have to find the grandmother, then she can provide you with nourishment.
Dude.
I'm not gonna eat somebody's grandmother.
Why? Compromises must be made. Yes.
Because she's been dead for years.
Then it's unethical?
Yeah, I guess it's unethical too.
Fine, yes. I tried to help you.
Well, thank you, but I prefer a less cannibalistic approach.
I think we're gonna just have to wait and see what happens. I mean, can you take on any more work?
Okay, you know what? Let's just forget it.
I'm just brainstorming here,
I know, I appreciate it. Thanks. Let's just focus on the game. What are we doing?
Well, it seems as though we look for the corals.
Oh. Yeah, this would be the part of the game where we have to collect coral and then feed it to a treasure chest. You need to get 22 pieces of coral, and you have to get it all at once. If you don't, then the chest will just sit there and mooch and demand that you go back and get it even more coral.
Oh man, I bet that poor chest has got a really terrible past.
Yep, yeah, no, it probably does.
It's a really hard market for coral these days.
It is, and I bet if we asked the chest, it would tell us all kinds of reasons why it can't go get its own coral.
Yeah, I've actually got a list with me if you want to see. I mean, number 1 at the list is bad back, followed by bad back. Oh, sorry, that one's on there twice.
Man, I hear that one all the time. I once lived with a girl who liked to vacuum the hallways at midnight. When she explained to me why she was doing it, she told me that she had a bad back.
Oh man, I empathize with that girl. I've got a bad back that comes and goes. I mean, it doesn't prevent me from doing anything fun, but it does make me do lots of things I shouldn't do. It's ridiculous.
Well, what kind of excuse do you suppose a treasure chest has to not get its own coral?
It is a treasure chest, yes.
Okay, well, then why does he eat coral in the first place? Why does a thing with no natural means of locomotion eat another thing that has no natural means of locomotion?
Sounds like that chest actually has a pretty legitimate reason to beg for food.
But how does a creature like that come to exist?
Maybe it was a wizard, yes.
Okay, but there's no magic.
Maybe it's a very old wizard.
See, that's the thing that drives me crazy about the whole there is no more magic thing in this setting. I mean, obviously there's a lot of magic, it's just that people don't understand how it works. Presumably, in a time long ago, they did understand how it worked. It's like organic chemistry or something. Because that's what it's like. I mean, let's suppose that Germany discovers organic chemistry, which in real life they did, and then they use it to destroy the world. After that, everyone says, hey, let's never use organic chemistry again, and they just burn all the books on organic chemistry. Then all the organic chemists get together and they form a society in exile on a little island. They call it Damasia. They teach their kids a little bit of organic chemistry, but none of the practical engineering applications. And then, finally, after 1,000 years, someone drops the social stigma and says, you know what? I don't see what the problem is. Then boom, technological advancements out the butt through the nose. The rest of the world's like, holy crap, oh my god, you can do that with organic chemistry? The local hippos still breathe fire on us and we're trying to deal with that, we're preoccupied at the minute. Cause that's the thing, humanity lost their power of magic, but the local monsters never did. There are actually ghosts in the forest south of Doma, and they could cast fire spells! That's like if you had to be really good all your life and then when you die, you're allowed to kill your uncle. I mean, in this world, when grandma passes away, she rises up from the grave, comes back, haunts the recliner, and then burns your house down. And then a magical flying hippo swoops down and picks up your grandmother's soul in its mouth and devours her. I would just like to know, in 1,000 years, after 1 millennium of dealing with magical obstacles and predators, how did society agree to let sleeping dogs lie and not investigate the problem or figure out how to harness it?
So this is the thing that explodes the entire setting for you, is a treasure chest that eats coral.
No, it just, makes me think about the setting, I want to ask some questions.
Really, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't make me think, I just enjoy the game for what it is. I think you're the only one who sees a treasure chest and thinks to yourself, what is wrong with the setting?
Well, I think about it.
I know you do.
It is important,
I know it is.
I mean, don't you just wonder what went through their mind as game developers? People sitting around working on this game and they said, you know what? Let's just use a treasure chest.
Sure, but wondering about the developers is not the same as losing your cool about the internal consistencies of the game.
It's a story-based game. I can lose my cool if it's not internally consistent.
So, here's the part of the game where the great and powerful Rarity brags about how she killed the monster.
Yes, just like she always said she would.
Okay, but a good point is made that this is supposed to be a magical village, so you do need 2 relatives that are magical.
No, you don't. Damasia is not really an essential component of the story. Most of what we know about the place is directly informed to us by dialogue, so you could change all that.
Okay, but Trixie is still the only official performer in the group, so it makes sense that she would be in the opera.
Do you even watch the show? Like, every single one of the ponies in the show will sing on the drop of a hat. Except we've never had a Trixie song.
If we did have a song, it would suck, because that is the Trixie shtick.
Yeah, that is kind of Trixie's whole thing, is that she's the dumbest. Well, whatever. If we get back to that treasure chest, I was thinking that thing's probably a placeholder. Like, they thought, we need this cave, we're gonna do this, we're gonna make them search for coral to feed it to a thing, and we gotta get a goblin sprite.
So you think they, lost interest or ran out of time and decided just to use a treasure chest?
Maybe. It's hard to say, though. I've read that a lot of times they wind up dropping stuff from these old cartridges because they couldn't store very much information. Later on, they might crack the game open for a ROM hack and find some old info laying around. Like in Chrono Trigger, there's actually an unfinished stage built into that game. They don't know what it was for, but it was scrapped, and it had its own theme music, too. When they questioned the developers about it, they just remarked that they had some plans, but they had to get rid of them because they couldn't fit them in the cartridge. The thing is, though, Chrono Trigger had a story element with a huge loose end, in that one of the characters, Magus, was trying to look for his sister, but you never find her. It's possible, but not really certain, that maybe that area had something to do with that storyline. But anyway, the point is, that was also Square that did that.
So we know they're the kind of company that would do that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, they did it apparently with Siegfried, who was supposed to have some kind of role, but then that got dropped.
So you think that maybe there was something different planned for Ebbett's Rock, but it wound up being scrapped?
I don't know, you never know what was cut for the interest of time or the interest of space. It could have just been that someone on the project spent all day looking at these treasure chests, and they said, hey, they look like little faces. We should do a mini-quest where we feed one.
So ultimately, I don't get it. Are you okay with the treasure chest, or do you not like it?
It's fine.
We are still poisoned! Yes, we had the party while we were poisoned.
Wow, I bet that was a real downer. Someone kept throwing up throughout the entire party. Rarity kept cutting him off to be like, excuse me, I'm telling a story here.
Don't you guys know that this is my crowning moment? I've wanted to kill this monster my entire life.
Fools! You do not recognize the importance of a party.
Could you even really call it a party, though?
Yes!
Well, okay, you're the expert. But anyway, though, here looks like a good place to stop for now. Thanks for playing with this, everybody.